Hey y'all, how'd y'all get here? Who told you about this show? Just kidding, welcome back. I'll talk if you'll listen. Episode 32. A week later, like I said, I'm trying to get back into a rhythm, everybody. Tim here. I'm excited about tonight. I am. I'm really excited about tonight. I'm excited about getting back into a new rhythm. I'm excited about the audio quality that you guys are going to hear, especially after listening to last week's episode. This microphone makes a difference. I'm going to be thanking my patrons until I die. I want every patron that supported me up until my death. I want their names and or initials inscribed on my urn. And for the record, I do want to be cremated. This got morbid really quickly. I don't know how we got here, but I'm extremely thankful for my patrons. Last week's episode sounded amazing thanks to this brand new microphone. So shout out to my patrons. I'm eternally grateful. I'm excited about tonight, everybody. The topics that I plan on covering tonight, I think, are the responses that I've seen to these topics on the interwebs, on social media, online, and just in person have been all across the board. And some of them have been crazy. Crazy good and crazy bad. That snippet you heard at the beginning was my buddy John talking about the Lil Nas X situation. I'm excited to talk about that. I'm excited to dive into it. And the Lil Nas X situation, if you don't know, so Lil Nas X, if you don't know who he is, or for you old people out there, well, first of all, if you're above a certain age, I can't even believe you're listening. How did you find this? How can you work your phone? How do you even know what a podcast is? But anyway, I'm just going to assume your nephew or your grandson helped you download this episode. But Lil Nas X is a music artist. He explores different genres of music, but he is, I guess you can call him country pop. In some cases, rap. He has a huge record out right now, number one record for quite some time, called Old Town Road, featuring Billy Ray Cyrus, or may even be with Billy Ray Cyrus. I don't know if he's considered a feature credit or, alongside type of thing, like if it's both of their songs. But it's a hugely popular song. It's called Old Town Road. If you've been in a club or if you've been listening to the radio, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not sure, just Google Lil Nas X, Lil, that's important. Lil Nas X, that's L-I-L, Nas, N-A-S, and then X for X-ray. Go check that out and listen to the songs. I like the song. I love the song. It's dope. It had to grow on me at first. I will say when it first came out, I didn't have any opinion on it. But now I like it. It's good. And he's been huge pop artist, huge country artist. Again, whatever category you want to put him in. And he came out on the very last day of June, or the 29th or something like that. And if you're not familiar with what June is Pride Month. Pride as in, gay pride. And he came out in a very public way. The responses have been crazy. So first and foremost, I want to say congratulations to him, because I think that's a very difficult thing to do. Even in 2019 still, sexuality is a huge topic of discussion. And even still in 2019, even after huge people like Ellen coming out, and even like people like Caitlyn Jenner undergoing the sex change, transitioning from Bruce Jenner to Caitlyn Jenner, in 2019, we still have to worry about how we're coming out. And don't you for a moment think sexuality is sacred, and people won't talk about that, and people won't pick on you for that. And don't you think for a moment that people are just coming out left and right and that they're totally comfortable with it, because they're not. They're totally not. I know people who are comfortable with their sexuality and they would consider themselves out, but are still hesitant and behaving a certain way when they meet new people. And I asked one of my buddies about it, and I said, hey, I noticed you do this thing. I want to understand you better. I want to know you better. I want to bond with you, strengthen our bond. And he straight up said, like, hey, I'm comfortable, but I know the world isn't yet. And I don't want to be judged on something so simple before the person gets a chance to know me, know who I am as a person. And I think that's so deep. So congratulations to Lil Nas X. Let's pick this apart. So he comes out in a very public way. I didn't see the initial announcement or how it was announced, but it was all over social media. And I do follow him on Twitter. His username is Nope, N-O-P-E, November, Oscar, Papa, Echo, Nope. And I follow him on Twitter. I follow his handle on Twitter. And he's been all over the place, and I think he's really embraced the feedback, both positively and negatively, both the positive feedback and negative feedback. He's embraced very well. And he even had one post that says the next person, he's talking about a guy, so he's a slur I'm not going to say on the air, but he said, the next guy that says something offensive to me, I'm kissing him. So he's just very lighthearted, very accepting, very of himself. And I'm sure there's still areas of this that he struggled with. I'm sure it was in some parts strategic, some parts a business move, but I'm sure a lot of it was anxiety, nervousness, and or hesitation. Why did he wait to the 30th? It could be from a place where like, hey, I'm going to get all of this. I'm going to get the song out. I want the song to do well. And then I'm going to make the announcement after the album is ready and the album releases, etc. Or I'm too scared to, I was going to do it June 1st or June 15th or whatever. And he probably finally got the courage on June 30th to do it. Who knows? But the fact that he did it and he's been embracing the feedback that he's been getting and been very vocal and active on Twitter, I think it's dope. So I want to go on the record and say I think it's dope on his decision to come out. I think he's handling it in a very humorous way, but also very seriously. And I like it. And he's treating his sexuality the way I feel like and when I say we, I mean, regardless of what country you're in, regardless of what part of the world you're in, regardless of your race, regardless of your age, we as humans, the human race, I think we should view sexuality the way Lil Nas X has embraced it over the past few weeks on Twitter. And he is looking at it as it's an extension of himself. And it's not this separate thing. It's not this box that you check. It's a part of his personality. It's a part of who he is. And I do want to dive into some of the neutral and or negative responses that I've seen so far to his music. And a lot of it has come from the male community. Sexuality for one gender doesn't seem to really affect the other gender in the same way. If a woman announces herself as, being a lesbian, men aren't really affected as much by that decision. And in my opinion, I feel the same way about when men announce themselves as, being homosexual and they express their homosexuality. I feel like it doesn't really affect women to the same degree. I think, of course, there's some similarities. There are a lot of different things that can be applied to both situations, but I think they do have their unique individual points or areas. Lil Nas X and his music, the way the male community has reacted to listening to his music. First and foremost, I'm trying to be objective here. A part of me is like, okay, understandable. But the craziest, most left field thing that I've seen, reaction that I've seen so far, is there are a lot of men out there saying, I can't listen to Old Town Road anymore. Because all of a sudden it's sexualized. All of a sudden it's about male romance and gay romance. And one of my favorite things is I've never heard Lil Nas X's speaking voice. I've only ever heard him in music. But he tweeted, Old Town Road is literally about horses. And I read that in such a voice, like in such an exasperated voice. In my head, I'm like, if I heard him say this, he would have said it like this. And he's like, in my head, I imagine him to say it. If you guys hear that popping in the background, at the end of the day, I do live around a certain type of folk, and they don't know how to act now that you can buy firecrackers in Philly. So every day is the 4th of July to them. Every day is Memorial Day. Every day is any day associated with fireworks. Luckily, thanks to my patrons, I have a really awesome mic, and I'll try my best with editing, so maybe you won't hear it. But if you do hear that popping in the background, I do apologize. But I imagine Lil Nas X saying that, like, Old Town Road is literally about horses, y'all. In my head, that's how he said it. Like this, like, y'all need to relax. And I saw this other young lady tweet that why all of a sudden is the song sexualized because he's gay. And it just cracks me up. You know, a lot of guys react. I remember a friend of mine, at the time, really close friend, but now we're just kind of, we see each other when we see each other. I remember when Channel Orange came out, Frank Ocean. And Forrest Gump is one of my favorite songs on the album. And this is when like the singles came out and I had like just got the album and he listened to it before I did. And he was like, yeah, you need to listen to Forrest Gump. He's talking about a guy. And what I'm about to say, I feel like most people who don't care if a guy is gay or not, I think all of them have gone through this with their homophobic and or straight friends, male friends specifically, at one point in time. So check this out. This was deep to me. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was telling them that I really like Frank Ocean and I was going to get the album, or I had just got the album, something along those lines. And he had already listened to it and he was like, yeah, man, he's gay. And I'm like, no way, he's gay? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. And I didn't really know how to react because, to be honest with you, I didn't at the time quite know. I know this is 2012, but I didn't really know. I mean, it's relatively young. I didn't really quite know how I felt about homosexuality at that point. And I had friends who I was cool with, but I was cool with them before I knew they were gay. So, you know, I remember him telling me like, yeah, listen to Forrest Gump. Go put the track on, listen to it. And I listened to it and I'm like, wow, you know, he really is talking about this, you know, a guy. He's not talking about a man. I'm sorry. He's not talking about a woman. And it was really deep to me, his reaction. Because he's like, I can't listen to this guy anymore. And I kind of felt this way. And this is what I'm talking about, where I feel like every person who has a homophobic friend, every man who has a homophobic male friend or has a straight male friend has probably gone through this experience. I didn't really know how to react. A part of me felt like, I need to react this shocked, repulsed way because he is. And I can't let him know that I'm okay with it. But then on the other end, I really didn't care. So I really was conflicted. I really didn't know how to act. And it was so crazy. Like, remember, at my core, I really didn't care. But like, I'm like, I don't know how to react in front of my friend who does care. You know, it's almost kind of like that thing where this thing happens and your group, whatever group you're supposed to be a part of, whether it be an age group, a race group, a cultural group, an inner city group, whatever, you're supposed to be upset at this thing or happy about this thing because you're allegedly or supposedly in this category. And I felt the same way. I'm like, here I am, you know, a straight male. How am I supposed to react to this? I see how he's reacting to it. How do I react to it? And the reaction to Lil Nas X's coming out is just, it reminds me of exactly that moment for me. I'm just thinking about all these guys who are either homophobic or they don't really care, but they gotta act like they do. And they're like, okay, all of a sudden I can't listen to this song anymore. All of a sudden it's sexualized. All of a sudden he's talking about a guy. I can't listen to this because how does that make me look? And I think it's very disappointing to see people react that way. Now, if it's out of a place of ignorance, I think there's a little wiggle room for understanding there. But if it's from a destructive place or, you know, it's malicious in nature, I really don't like that. I don't. And I'm not going to go as far as to say that if you follow me on social media, you unfollow me now. Like, those people crack me up. I feel like they're just drama queens. If you don't like what I got to say, unfollow me now. You know, do what you want. You know, everybody has a right to their own opinions. And I would never go as far as to say is unfollow me because we disagree. Honestly, I think that's a little immature. But that being said, I would love to have a heart-to-heart conversation with you to try to figure out what, you know, where's this negativity coming from? And there was some humor in it. And like I said, he's embraced it with humor in some areas. And there were some people, there was one guy who posted a video about it that was really, really funny. And Lil Nas X actually even reacted to the video and said it was hilarious. So I feel like there's humor in everything. And I think among very few things, humor brings the world together. And I think if you can laugh about a lot of different things, at the end of the day, the world's a little bit better of a place. So I really did like to see someone find humor in it with in an innocent, playful, joshing way, not like in a, you know, malicious way. And not only that, but to see Lil Nas X react to that and laugh at it because he found it funny. I think that was a powerful message for a lot of people to say, hey, stuff like this can be funny as long as it's not with the intent to hurt anybody or anything. So I encourage all of you to go, if you have a Twitter, follow Lil Nas X and just go look at some of his tweets from the past week. I'm not too sure. I don't follow him on Instagram. I don't know if he has one. Or just Google his name and just take a look at some of the articles that are out there. I think it'll give you a lot of insight to both views, both sides of the argument. I think you'll get a little bit more of the negative side of the argument on social media. And I think you'll get more of the unbiased and or positive side of the argument if you look at some of the articles that have been posted. But go check that out. I thought that was really intriguing. And I did ask John towards the end of our interview about his opinion on it. And I think he gave a very, very well-rounded answer. I am a little biased, but I think he gave a very well-rounded answer. But sound off in the comments below if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening on any other platform, feel free to email me or follow me on Twitter. All of the information will be in the description below to get in touch with me. DM me if you don't want your response public and let me know. I really, if I want to hear both sides of it. If you think it's great and you don't see anything wrong with it, I want you to hit me up. If you think it's disgusting and you do have a problem with it, I want you to hit me up. I genuinely am curious. And if you all haven't noticed by now, and if this is your first episode listening, I'll go ahead and clarify for you. I love having productive conversations, especially about differing viewpoints. So please sound off in the comments below and hit me up. I would love to talk about that. Speaking of artists, another artist was in the news, Chris Brown, for comments that he made. Comments that he made, but first there was the lyric. So he had a lyric in one of his songs on his latest album, Indigo, that came out. And I want to read an article about this because the article expresses it better than I can. It's an article on Revolt by Revolt. I want to credit the author. Author is Dana Haffenden. So shout out to Dana. And I hope I pronounced your last name right, Dana. But it's an article she published on Revolt about the situation. So I'm going to go ahead and it's a brief article. I'm going to read it for you all. If you don't know about Chris Brown and his comments, his latest album came out on Indigo, and on one of the songs, he made there's a very particular lyric that pissed a lot of people off. So I'm going to go ahead and read this article over the air, and Again, you can find it on your own if you'd like. I can skip past this part if you'd like. And it reads, after facing backlash for his nice hair song lyric, Chris Brown is responding to the criticism once again. On the song Need a Stack, which features Lil Wayne and Joyner Lucas, Brown states having a dating preference towards women with good hair. Now, I'm going to go off script really quickly here, everyone. Pay attention to that. So again, this article reads, on the song Need a Stack, which features Lil Wayne and Joyner Lucas, Brown states having a dating preference towards women with quote unquote good hair. Remember that. I'm going to come back to that particular line in particular. So it goes on to read, it quotes the lyric. So it's going to, you know what? You sing lyrics and you rap lyrics all the time. And I'm going to go speak it, saying it out of rhythm. It's so funny. Shaking it, turn the lights down, bust it for the light bill, digging it. Then I'm licking all on that blank, put it right there. Only want to blank the black girls. And he used an expletive in place of girls. With the nice hair. So again, just to read the lyric again, shaking it, turn the lights down, bust it for the light bill, digging it, then I'm licking all on that blank, put it right there, only want to blank the black girls with the nice hair. The article goes on to read, in his response, the 30-year-old singer explains that people are weird. He goes as far as to say that he will start giving away free lace front wigs. And quote for Chris Brown, weird ass angry people, he wrote. Sincerely, and the article goes on to quote Chris saying, weird ass angry people, he wrote. Sincerely, from the bottom of my balls, I don't give a blank about y'all. Negative, booty face ass girls. I'ma start giving away free lace fronts for all you weird females with the skid row edges and low self-esteem. Aside from that, hop off these nuts. Half y'all look like Budweiser frogs, so please don't come with the bull blank. I will fire that ass up and roast the hell out of you overly sensitive, duckhead ass weirdos. End quote. Later on, Brown uploaded a video and stated that he is initiating a challenge. He wants all the females who are mad at him to upload a picture of their physical appearance. It goes on to quote Chris, okay, challenge for y'all, all y'all angry uglies that's mad at what I said. Post a picture of what you look like, please. Despite those who are angry, there are fans who are trying to look at the Indigo singer's nice hair lyric from an unbiased point of view. One user goes on to quote and says, Chris Brown said he blanking with the black girls with nice hair, a fan wrote on Twitter. Shea Butter Twitter in an uproar because they don't think he's talking about them, but whoever said natural hair isn't nice. So just to echo some of the points in this article, and I want to go back to, so again, without even realizing that Dana did it herself. I don't know if it was a clerical issue or a typo, but I want to go back to one of the paragraphs here in her article. She says, on the song Need a Stack, which features Lil Wayne and Joyner Lucas, Brown states having a dating preference towards women with quote unquote good hair. That's not the lyric. So in a very article covering the lyric, she misquotes the lyric. Again, I don't know if she did it on purpose. And Dana, you're probably never going to hear this. You're way too big for me. You have an article published on Revolt, for God's sakes. But I'm not bashing you, but listen, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it was just an oversight on her part. I don't know if it was like just a clerical issue again, but she misquotes the lyric. He never said good hair. He said nice hair. Now, I will say this. I'm going to be very objective here. Growing up in a specific part of the world, in a specific city in the country, specifically America, you give this perception on what nice hair is. Now, whether that is well-founded or not, you can't put that same perceptive standard on what he said. Nice is a very subjective word. It is a very subjective word. And who knows only Chris and maybe whoever else was in the room, or maybe the engineer who produced the song, who knows what he meant by that. If he added more context outside of that. I think people are being very sensitive and they want to be mad. It's like being very selective because they had no problem with him using the B word. You could have went on a whole rant about how that word is degrading and how you don't qualify as a B word and you don't respond to that word because it doesn't apply to you. And he shouldn't refer to women as that, especially if he's going to be a role model, especially if he has a kid, yada, yada, yada. Oh no, you glossed over that entirely. You glossed over that entirely. You went right after the nice hair lyric. That could mean anything, right? What if he meant natural hair? Should the women who put product and external other things in their hair, should they take offense? What if he meant straight hair? So should women with curly hair take offense? What if he meant blonde hair? Should all brunettes take offense? You don't know what he meant. And look, at the end of the day, if you want to be upset, that's on you. You're just miserable. You are. Come at me. I can take it. You're just miserable. I mean, it's just like the whole Ariel thing, right? So Disney is making a ton of remakes. And Ariel has been cast, like the live action Little Mermaid, Disney's The Little Mermaid, has a black, and I don't know what her ethnicity is, like if she actually is black, but they cast a black actress to portray the fictional character Ariel, if you're unfamiliar with The Little Mermaid. And there are people in the uproar about that, just being selective about certain things. Just like people are being selective about the Chris Brown lyric, right or wrong. They're being selective about the Chris Brown lyric. They're being selective about how they choose to react to. I'm indifferent. I don't care. I don't. I'm probably going to get crucified for this. I think this is probably on the same level of saying that Beyonce is overrated, but I'm not really into Disney movies. The animated ones anyway. I prefer the live action ones, like Pirates of the Caribbean, the Mighty Ducks franchise. What you know about D2, the Mighty Ducks? One of my top movies of all time. I'm more into the live action Disney movies. I've never really been into animated ones, with the exception of Aladdin and The Lion King, because those hold a very special place in my childhood. They were bigger than just what they were. But I've never really been into Disney movies at all, so I don't care. But just trying to put myself in the shoes of the people who have watched Disney movies and they do care, you're going to have to help explain to me what the big deal is. So first and foremost, representation does matter. It's very important to have a diverse portfolio when it comes to things that are going to be exposed to different groups of people, whether it be a movie, whether it be a book, whether it be a TV show, a comic book, a song, whatever. You definitely want to hit different demographics, and different types of representation are going to matter differently to different people. Like, for example, I don't care much about race when it comes to representation. For me personally, let me clarify. For me personally, I don't care much about race when it comes to representation. I care more about age, and I care more about social situation. So if I'm watching a movie, like a high school movie or, grade school movie, and the main protagonist, or there is a character, or if I'm watching a TV show and a supporting character is very socially awkward, and the writing does a beautiful job portraying like how difficult it is for young boys in high school discovering women and being socially awkward, I'm going to relate more than that than I'm going to relate to like a black character. But either way, I'm going to be happy at this representation. If I'm watching a show and there's like, for the Big Bang Theory is a perfect example of that, and how somebody like Leonard was very awkward around Penny before they started to hit it off, or about like how sometimes Sheldon is too smart for his own good and he's just not even thinking about what's right in front of him because he's so focused on the bigger picture. Things like that. The things like how Raj gets super nervous and he can't speak to like around women. I relate to that type of representation matters to me. I think it was really cool for them to portray characters like that, because where else would you see that? So I thought that was pretty dope. But I didn't care that nobody in the Big Bang Theory, the main four characters, that they were all, the three of them were white and Raj was Indian. I didn't care. But to some people it does. So just going back to the whole Ariel thing, some people it does. Representation matters to a lot of people when it comes to race. And for some people, they want to see like a main character who looks like them and maybe who sounds like them, maybe has a little bit of sass, maybe has curly hair, maybe is shorter or taller or bigger or smaller, and they can relate to that. And that's fine. I have no issue with that. The issue that I take with is people having a problem with there being a black like Ariel being black. I don't see the big deal. And I also have a problem with the people bashing other people's opinions. Let people have their opinions. If they don't think it's So here's one thing I will say. I'm probably going to get beat up for this, but I ain't scared of y'all. I think characters who were designed a specific way should be that way. So Black Panther should be black. T'Challa should be black. Shaft should be black. Django, he should be black. If any of these movies got remade and the character was a white character or an Asian character, I would have an issue. Like if Enter the Dragon got remade and like Bruce Lee's character was like Jason Statham, I would take an issue with that. Because if you want, let's say Jason Statham didn't exist, right? Let's say he was like a brand new person. And you come out with Enter the Dragon, the remake or whatever. It'll probably be called something stupid like Enter the Dragon Again or something. And you get this white guy, you get this black guy, you get whoever to play Bruce Lee's character. I think some of the integrity of the film gets lost. I think black characters should remain black. I think Asian characters should remain Asian. And I think white characters should remain white. But at the end of the day, when you have neutral characters who were written more with a personality and a situation and an environment in mind and not necessarily with a race in mind, cast whoever the hell you want. I don't see a big deal. Take Ariel. Not once is her race relevant. If anything, she's a mermaid. That's more relevant. What she is more relevant than, and in the sense of like the species she is more relevant than her race. What she's trying to go through is more relevant than her race. Her finding true love is more relevant than her race. Her rebelling against her father is more relevant than her race. Now, how that's portrayed via race is a different topic of discussion entirely. I'm sure black Ariel is probably going to have a little bit more sass than white Ariel. But at the end of the day, it's no big deal. Ariel was never assigned a race. She was white because she was white. And now she's black because she's black. Who can portray this fictional character, emphasis on fictional, the best? That's all. No big deal. Now, on one end, I do think there are some people who are putting too much emphasis on the fictional character. But at the end of the day, race is irrelevant when it comes to, in my opinion, when it comes to trying to find someone with a great personality. Now, where I would say race is relevant is now you got a bunch of little black girls out there who maybe can go out and buy Ariel dolls or Ariel, Little Mermaid paraphernalia and Little Mermaid merchandise. And their parents can be a little bit more confident of, okay, now you can buy something that looks like you. So that positive reinforcement, like, hey, you can grow up and be this way and do this if you want to. And I think it was a very bold move for Disney, especially knowing the type of backlash that they'll get. On the other end, if Meteor Man got remade and they had like an Asian Meteor Man or a white Meteor Man or an Indian Meteor Man, that's a problem because Meteor Man was black. That's who he was. But if you remade like Scary Movie and Cindy was black or Asian, now there's certain elements of her character that were just white as hell. So yeah, you would probably have to deal with that. But you can kind of write that behavior off as more suburban than necessarily white in some cases. But what do y'all think? I would love to hear what y'all thoughts and opinions are on the whole situation. Does representation matter to you? does Disney remaking these movies and casting different people, does that matter to you? Or are you just excited for the movie? And there's a lot of discrimination that still goes on in reference to race. And people will feel like, hey, I have to boycott this movie. I can't see this movie because this person isn't black or is black. And then you have some people who are just upset with something that they grew up with being changed. I knew some people that had a problem with Aladdin. And they said, no, don't touch it. Leave it alone. I know some people who have a problem with the Lion King. They say, don't touch it. Leave it alone. Mulan, by the way, everybody, the trailer for Mulan did just get announced today. So go check that out. Now, I will say I am actually excited to see that, because if I had to pick a third favorite movie, it is Mulan. I would say 1A is Aladdin, 1B is Lion King. My answer might change depending on when you ask me. And number 3 would be Mulan. That's my jam. That is my jam. The Emperor's New Groove is good too. But before I go down that rabbit hole, that's a rabbit hole I'm not going to get out of. Episode will be like 2 hours long before we even get to the interview. But yeah, some people can be really discriminatory. You know what? Here's another really good example. I came across an article today and I really wanted to talk about this. I'm glad I'm bringing this. I'm glad I saw this today so I could bring this up. Now, I don't know much about this artist, but I came across a really interesting article today. There's a rapper, Detroit area based rapper, Detroit, Michigan, by the name of Tiny Jag or Tiny Jaguar. And apparently there was a festival coming up in the Detroit area that Tiny Jag was headlining called Afro Future Fest. Afro Future Fest. And it's in the Detroit area, and apparently, you know, it's a pretty big deal to everyone in the area, a local concert. And now check this out, y'all. I tweeted the article if you want to read the article. It was a great article by Tanya Edwards, Miss Tanya, she's known as on Twitter. Shout out to Tanya Edwards, that she posted on Yahoo Entertainment. And just to summarize the article, again, go read the article if you want more information. But this venue, this concert festival, had pricing based on race. Yes, they had pricing based on race. Now, here's the thing that you got to be fair. Black people listening, Asian people listening, anybody of color, you have to be fair. You can't only champion your side of the fight, your side of the struggle. You got to be fair across the board, because if you're not, when it is time to fight for your side's rights and your side's exposure and visibility, it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's going to lose some of its spunk, so to speak, because you're being selective in what's right. Like, oh, it's only wrong when they do it. It's not wrong when we do it. That's called a double standard. So they have pricing, and this is a black organized event. They have pricing based on race. So they announced it online. What was this? Twitter. Yeah, it's Twitter. So here's a official line. So they go, hey, official lineup for Afro Future Fest is here. We're activating the black is in all caps, by the way. We're activating the black farm grounds of freedom. And yes, this is happening on Black Detroit's east side. So as you can see, they're very pro-black and they're announcing black, etc., etc. So check this out. Early bird POC tickets are $10 and $20 for non-POCs on sale until July 17th. For those of you wondering what POC means, it means person of color. So check this out. They have $10 pricing if you're a person of color, and they have $20 pricing if you're not a person of color. So Tiny Jack saw this and she says, I was immediately enraged just because I am biracial. Graham told the Metro Times. I have family members that would have, under those circumstances, been subjected to something that I would not ever want them to be in. especially not because of anything that I have going on. So check this out. You're going to get upset when black people are discriminated against or met with unfair opportunity. And then you're going to turn around and do that for anyone who isn't a person of color. That's totally hypocritical in my book. So this is how they responded to this. Why do we have POC, which they clarify as people of color, and non-POC, which, by the way, they put white people, tickets? I'm glad you asked. Equality means treating everyone the same. Equity is ensuring everyone has what they need to be successful. Our ticket structure was built to ensure that the most marginalized communities, people of color, are provided with an equitable chance at enjoying events in their own community. Black Detroit. Affording joy and pleasure is unfortunately still a privilege in our society for people of color, and we believe everyone should have access to receiving such. We've seen too many times orgasmic events. I don't know if they meant to use orgasmic there, by the way, but they go on to say we've seen too many times orgasmic events happening in Detroit and other people of color populated cities. And what consistently happens is people outside of the community benefiting most from affordable ticket prices because of their proximity to wealth. This cycle disproportionately displaces black and brown people from enjoying entertainment in their own communities. As an Afrofuturist youth-led initiative, the voices of our youth inform our resistance. Here's what they have to say. If you don't see my blackness, you don't see me, period. So check this out. First and foremost, if you want to base it about money, and you think it's about money, then color shouldn't have much to do with it. Because now you're implying, believe it or not, you're reinforcing the same type of stereotypes that we as a people want to get away from in the first place. You're saying only people of color live in lower income neighborhoods. You're saying only people of color have a challenging road. You're saying only people of color can't afford something like this. And you're saying if someone lives in a wealthy neighborhood, if someone lives outside of the community, if someone doesn't live in the inner city, they're white. You don't realize that you're perpetuating the very same thing that we get upset at when companies do the same thing to us. I think it's just a load of bullcrap. I think it's crazy that they can sit here and type something up like this. And I'm really proud of Tiny Jack for withdrawing. And I know it's really tough because this is her money. This is how she makes money. But I'm really, really proud of her because I know it's really, really tough to pass up on money like this. But I think that's just crazy. What do you guys think? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. Here's another point that they just overlooked. If you're really that concerned, you should have did it based on zip code. How about that? You got to enter a billing zip code when you're purchasing online via credit card, right? Why don't you just do it based on zip code? If you live within the Black Detroit area, you live on the Black Detroit East Side area, then yeah, you get a discount. How about you do it that way? Or how about this? How about you raise ticket costs as general admission and set a pool, a certain number, whether it be 50, I don't know how big the venue is, whether it be 50, $100, whatever. You set that amount of money aside, that like, you know, $100 worth of tickets or whatever, and then you gift those to people who apply for them. How about that? Or how about you just run contests and you give those away and you make the stipulation of that contest being of a certain from a certain neighborhood? How about you just do that? So if you're saying, so for example, if these tickets cost $20, how about you raise them to $30, right? And you that'll cover the cost of the free tickets. If this was really about having access to, and so what? What if I was from Black Detroit and I moved? Now all of a sudden I'm not considered a person of color. I think that's crazy. I think that's ridiculous. And I think they need to check themselves. So I'm really proud for this article being published to increase visibility. I'm going to do everything I can to increase visibility. And shout out to Tiny Jag. I don't know you, but I'm going to go listen to some of your music now just to see what some of the things that you're rapping about. I hope you don't make me put egg on my face, but at the end of the day, good for you. Kudos. Because I know that was hard to do. To imply that only people of color, first of all, to imply that only people of color live in the inner city, and if you're outside of the inner city, you're not a person of color anymore, because you can't possibly do well for yourself, first of all. But the second, take a look at the early bird people of color price is a $10 difference than a non-people of color price. Really a huge difference there. Huge difference there. Yeah, they can't afford the $10 difference. That's bullcrap, man. It's like so much hypocritical nonsense in this article here that I don't even know how they still have a festival to keep it real with you. So I encourage you all to go check out that article. Please do. Please check out that article and give me some feedback. Tell me what you think. Do you think they're justified in having two different price points to help people from inner city locations afford entertainment in their area? Or do you think it's just an excuse to, one, do you think it's a cash grab? And two, do you think it's an excuse to be discriminatory? So please let me know. I would love to hear what you all have to say. Now, before rolling right into the interviews, I just want to personally thank my next two guests. They have been longtime listeners, and I'm really excited to have them on. And I can't wait for you all to hear what they had to say about last week's topic. So for those of you who didn't listen to last week's episode, and for those of you who don't know me, I am moving in with the lady. I have a girlfriend. I will be moving in with her before the summer is out, and I am very nervous about the whole situation, and I'm excited as well, and I'm scared, and I don't know what's coming. So these two listeners, two good friends of mine, have been living with each other for over a year now, and I reached out to them to get some advice on what to do. So they listened to last week's episode. They said they had some great advice for me and some great feedback, so I had them onto the show. So after this break, we're going to dive right into the Idle Thoughts segment, and you get to hear what they had to say. You get to hear their good advice that they gave me. More right after this. Hey, welcome back. Right before the break, I brought up the Idle Thoughts segment where listeners just like you can call in to the show and express some thoughts and opinions about any of the topics that we covered over the previous episodes of the show. And I say episodes plural because it doesn't have to be the most recent. It can be from 3 episodes ago. It can be from 10 episodes ago. Whatever's on your mind. So without further ado, here is John and Devin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Another week, another episode, another segment of Idle Thoughts. This time around, we have two really good friends of mine. Big surprise there, right? We have a friend that I've known for quite some time and his beautiful wife that I've gotten a chance to get to know over the last couple of years. We have John and Devin. How are you two?
Hello.
What's going on, dog?
See, Devin, I like you. See how pleasant and nice you were? John, see, you can take a guy out of the hood, man, but deep down at heart, you can't take the hood out of the guy.
Never. I stick with my roots.
As you should in most cases, but just like we talked offline before the call, code switching is very important.
Touche.
So I appreciate you two joining the call today and wanting to voice your opinion regarding last week's topic. And you two recently moved in together within the last year or 2 years. You two moved in together, and I am about to make that jump now. And I know everybody's situation is different, and the situation surrounding everyone's circumstances is different. So although my situation isn't exactly the same as you all, I would really like to hear what some of the similarities between the emotion and anxiety and excitement that I have. So I want to start with you, Devin, coming from a woman's perspective. What were the main thoughts going through your head as far as moving in with your husband?
Okay, ladies first. Well, it was, I was excited for the whole adventure because I knew that it would be an adventure. This is a whole nother person with a different background, even though we pretty much came from the same type of background, but it's still a different background based as he's from a whole nother state, a whole different area, a whole different demographic pretty much than where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And more city life, a little slower pace. It's not the country, even though I sound country, but it's not the country. It's just a little slower. And it's a guy. It's a whole different person, type of being than what I'm used to living with. My family's predominantly female. In college, my roommate was my best friend from from high school, and she's a female, of course. So this is a dude, and growing up, you hear things that dudes do in the privacy of their own homes that is very weird and disgusting at times.
Hey, we're not that bad.
So I hear all these horror stories and some good things, like, yeah, they kill a bug or they can reach this and all of that. But I'm about to experience it for myself. So it was exciting. It was a little nervous. You know, then I have to deal with things that I know I do behind closed doors. So it's like, oh no, he's going to see. He's going to hear me go to the bathroom.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions. But I knew I liked him enough to want to be in the same space with him.
I think that's pretty cool that you point out the fact that you were nervous. And I think from the outside looking in, from my experience, that only the guy it's viewed as the guy is the one that's the nervous one, and the woman is the one that initiates the process because they view it as the next phase of their relationship. So it's always like these emotions are put in a box, right? Like if you're a guy, you must feel this way. If you're a girl, you must feel this way. So I really do like the fact that you called out on the nervousness of it, the whole situation. And the fact that, yeah, you called out on, you have no perspective on what it's like living from a guy that may not be a member of your family. And the only thing you have to go on is, what you hear from other women, basically. And that can be a tough perspective to change or to grow out of when you're making such a big decision like moving in together. Now, John, I want to ask you a follow-up question about that. Was this something that you initiated? Was this something that you wanted to do? Was this something that Devin wanted to do? Or was it more like a business decision? Was this something that you two came together and was like, okay, this needs to happen because of our situation?
This definitely was something that we both agreed on. Especially with me, I was getting ready to go on deployment around the time when we did move in together. We were about 2 months out from me going on deployment. But all in all, we spent enough time together to know that we wanted to move in together. So we both collectively said, hey, we're married now. Let's make this transition to set ourselves up to, be ready to coexist with one another for an even longer term once I come back.
So you two were already married before you moved in together?
Yes, we got married, I want to say a month before we moved in together.
Do you think, how much of an impact, because I'm in a situation right now where my girlfriend and I, we've been together for quite some time, but we're, nowhere near being engaged, so obviously nowhere near being married. So I'm sure, that's not something that we can even consider. How much of a role, John, did the marriage play into the decision? Was it a plus, like, hey, A, B, and C, and also we're married? Or was it more like, hey, we're married, and these other reasons fell in line from there?
I want to say the being married part is a plus. Her and I, Devin and I really get along well. We have a lot of the same habits. We like a lot of the same stuff. I don't want to use that to take away from our differences, because we have our fair share of differences also. Just like she said, we came up from two different areas, two different types of, city, urban environments, mine being a little bit more fast paced than hers. But at the same time, you would think we were two sides of the same pillow. So for us to coexist with each other and live in the same space together wouldn't have been a difficult thing to do. I feel like that was a decision that we could have made even if we didn't get married beforehand. It's just the fact that we were married just ended up being a plus side to the fact that we would get along pretty well if we moved in together anyway.
Now, Devin, to add on to what John said, you two are two sides of the same pillow. You guys have a lot of similarities, and you guys are in sync. So I'm sure you've heard the phrase, oh, you wouldn't be able to live with yourself. When you come across that one person that has certain ways about them, and you're like, you know what, if there were two of you, you two could not live together. Why do you think it works with you and John for you to have so many similarities, but it just works? What do you think is the biggest reason for that?
Well, yes, I am familiar with the phrase. And I feel like it works because, as he stated, we are so similar, but we do recognize our differences as well. It's not something that's sugar-coated or tiptoed around. We, especially myself, blatantly will point out certain things to the point where it's like, okay, I get it. You don't do it this way. I do it this way. Either way, it has to be done. Both outcomes are the same result. So I will either just accept the fact that you do it this way, or one of us will try to do it the other person's way every now and then. So it's just a balance with compromising. And I feel like I can live with myself, though. I do. And then there was one other point that was the next stage of the relationship. You said most women or some women feel like it's the next stage. I know that the way I was brought up, my whole family, we were taught not to live with someone we were dating or, you know, the opposite sex or anything like that until we were married. It wasn't this is my boyfriend, we've been together for years, we're going to get married one day, so why not save money, let's go move in together. No, that's stacking up. You don't do that, that's a no-no. No. So, however, myself and a few other family members, who I won't name, but a few other family members have, as growing up, we thought, well, you know, you don't really get to know a person until you live with them. Like, you never really know a person, but living with them definitely opens your eyes to that person. Like, you get a deeper, it's hard to fake with someone when you're just seeing them on dates or just seeing them for certain periods of time. Even if you take weekend trips together or something, it's hard to really see a person during those time frames. But when you're with them on a daily, all hours of the day, all seasons of the year, you definitely can see that person a little clearer. But yeah, we were taught not to live with anyone until you were married. And that was one thing that did kind of stick with me. So the fact that we did get married, it was more so, well, I mean, there's really no excuse now. If we didn't get married and we were still in the dating phase or boyfriend, girlfriend, and all of that in a relationship, I probably would have contemplated still moving in with him. I don't know if I would have officially done it just because of my upbringing, but I definitely would have thought about it.
Now, I think a part of the reason, and one thing that seems to be consistent coming from both of you, is you two are endorsing how similar you both are. And you two seem to be hanging your hat on that. She might get mad for me saying this in the first place, but my girl and I have more differences than similarities. So what advice, I'm going to start with you, John, coming from a male's perspective, coming from someone who's relatively independent and used to, values his alone time and now having to share space with somebody. What advice would you give me specifically? You knowing me, you know who I am. What advice would you give me specifically when you know that my girlfriend and I share more differences than similarities?
Okay, messages to 2012, Tim. Here we go. So you got to embrace the differences. They're gonna be there. Sometimes they might even annoy you a little bit, but you have to literally understand and go in with the mindset of this is a totally different person, and this is someone that I need and want to get used to, and just embrace the differences that you guys have. Embrace the fact that, you know, she might want ice in every single drink except orange juice. Embrace the fact that, you know, she might want her sandwiches, no matter what kind of sandwich it is, cut diagonally with no condiments whatsoever. Like, you might say to yourself, like, this isn't the way things are supposed to be, or this isn't the way that I like stuff, or, you know, it's completely opposite from what I'm used to, but you have to embrace it. Because if you don't, all it's going to do is annoy you. And with the annoyance is going to come the distance, and then with the distance is going to come the failing of the relationship. So if the differences are going to be there, you just have to embrace it for what it is.
That's a good point. And I think sometimes I can look at what's different as a negative thing. And to your point, there's always a positive way to look at things. And I will learn to embrace the differences, because you're right, one thing can lead to another. And before you know it, you know, you had one intention and you end up on the other side of town. It's like going into the dollar store and you're only going to get one thing and you walk out with 50 type of thing, where you're like, hey, I'm just going to spend this much time away from her. This much time turns into more time, and more time turns into we don't go out anymore. And then that turns to why do we always need to go out? And then you never know. It could be an argument and it could snowball from there. That's a really good point on calling out how one thing could lead to another unintentionally. Now, Devin, I'm a man, you know, I'll never be able to see things from a woman's perspective naturally anyway. I can try my very, very best to, you know, understand and want to understand and seek to understand, but at the end of the day, I'll never be a woman. I'll never be able to think the way that my girlfriend will be able to think, both as a gender thing, her being a woman and me being a man, and also with just us being individualized people. From a woman's perspective, what advice would you give to me based on what you know about me so far and based on you having the experience of moving in with somebody already? What advice would you give to me in dealing with this whole process?
Definitely be open. If you stay closed-minded in this process, it will make things so much harder. Just harder on you, harder on her, and harder on your relationship. Like, yes, I can understand some things you may not want to be open about, or you may not be ready, but still be open enough to express that you may need time for certain things. No matter what it is, sharing space, sharing time, anything like that. The whole, because he tried to throw a little shot at me with the ice in every glass. I caught that. But I see that he listens, and as it's a learning process for the female, it is a learning process for the male as well. We shouldn't be the only ones to listen and conform to helping you around the house or helping you with this, that, and the third. Listen to us too. We like certain things and have little quirks as well. So, okay, if we get cold, we might want to keep a little blanket on the couch. So, knowing you like the temperature certain, set at a certain degree. So, that's a compromise right there that could be so simple, but I have definitely heard people have really serious arguments about it, i.e. our old neighbors above us had a full conversation about the temperature to the point where I might have needed to call security. But
oh boy.
But definitely be open, and that's really the main thing. Just being open, because you all can make lists and compromise and say, well, these days we'll try to do this, or plan out your time in certain areas of the house and all of that. But if you're not open, you're still gonna have some issues.
I think that's excellent advice, especially considering that we're two different people. And I am going to be very open in the sense of even having the same conversation or multiple conversations about the same topic. I saw a quote the other day that really touched me in my situation that said the biggest misconception about communication is the fact that it ever took place in the first place. And that really hit me. And I think it should hit anybody in a relationship, because how many times have we heard about people arguing? How many times have we ourselves argued with the person that we're with because we thought we already told them? Or that's what I meant when I said this. You know, so I think patience is a huge factor, and I really appreciate both of you shedding some light on your situation. Now, just to wrap things up, you two don't know about this yet because this is being recorded before the episode comes out. But just to give you two a sneak peek, tonight's episode that's going to get recorded after this interview is regarding some things that are happening in the now. One in particular is Lil Nas X coming out of the closet and admitting that he's openly gay. He's openly gay now. And Chris Brown making comments in one of his songs, or lyrics surrounding one of his songs regarding African American women and nice hair. John, I want to start with you. If you want to comment on the Lil Nas, as a man specifically, on the Lil Nas X thing, do you think that should matter to men who listen to his music, or do you think they're well within their rights to not support his music anymore?
Coming from someone who prides himself on the music he listens to, the diversity of the music he listens to, if you really care about music, the industry, and what you listen to, this won't mean a thing. I'm still listening to Channel Orange, so, I even downloaded Blonded when that came out. So, I mean, as far as this whole Lil Nas X thing, okay, that's what's up. At least you're being true to yourself. Thank you for letting all of us know, because that's a big step, especially in the position that he's in. And I think that that's a good representation for the modern day youth to know that this is something that you can come out and say. And I feel like the people who feel as though this is something that they can no longer support, why? Just really ask yourself why, because how does this affect you? How does this affect your everyday life? How does this affect the music that you were listening to well before he even admitted this? I say good for him. I say good on him that he was able to even come out and say this. And it doesn't change my opinion at all about him or any of the projects he's put out or will put out.
Hey, Devin, and being a woman of color and a native to Virginia like Chris Brown is, how did that lyric affect you? What were some of your initial thoughts when he put that lyric in his music?
Well, I've always been taught that all hair is good hair. That's one thing. He is an artist, and artists do have the platform to express and say whatever they want, however they want to. And people are not going to agree with it either way. We've known that he said things before, and there's so many other songs that are out there saying only specific type of people are acceptable, I guess you could say. And apparently that may be his type, which he is entitled to a type, which everyone is. You can't get mad at someone for liking a specific type. And as much as society has been today with hair in general and the way we want to change it, but now we're trying to change back to the natural styles and different things like that, all hair is good hair. I don't read too deep into his comments personally. He should have been smart enough to know he was going to get backlash, but that's him and his life and his record label and everything. They got to deal with that. But whatever he says, no matter what he changed it to, it was going to be some backlash.
May I chime in? My personal opinion on that is just, what is nice hair? What is the good hair? And how do you know his interpretation of good hair isn't natural, or isn't, like, what type of hair would he consider good hair? And we don't know that interpretation. So I feel like people are doing the whole, well, if the boot fits kind of ordeal, and they're just taking it into their own and kind of blowing it up into something that it might not even have meant to be. Maybe he just worded what he wanted to say wrong.
If at that, if wrong at all. Maybe he knew what he said. And I think, to Devin's point, it's open to interpretation. I really do appreciate you two coming on to the show. I think it's super dope whenever I have any listeners, especially longtime listeners like yourselves, come on to the show. I think it's a special treat. It shows how far the show has come, and it also shows that, hey, I guess I'll keep talking if you listen. I really do appreciate you two coming on, and I hope to talk to you very soon.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate the love, man.
That was a great interview. It was really fun for me. Thank you again, you two. You guys rock. I really do appreciate it. Congratulations on everything that you've done up until this point, and thank you so much for listening. It was a treat. In the meantime, everybody, if you have more advice for me on anything in general, but specifically about moving in, please reach out to me, whether it be on a personal note, whether it be via the show, whether it be on Twitter, social media, whatever the case may be. Please reach out to me. I think it would be so dope to hear from you. And hey, I don't know it all, despite what some people think based on some of the feedback that I got. I don't know it all. I really don't. And I'm really looking forward to the feedback that you all can give me. And I'm excited about this process. I'm nervous about this process. So anything you all can do to help make this process easier for me, I'd really appreciate it. Some big stuff on the horizon. I can't wait until this episode drops so you all can digest it. And hopefully I'll be hearing from you all on the following episode. I'll have more guests on as well. In the meantime, everybody, I gotta get going. Let's edit this thing down. Let's get this thing out before the end of the night. As always, I'll keep talking if you'll listen. Take care.